This time last year, I was in Spain and Portugal. I accidentally left my diary in my hotel room in Seville. So it had to be couriered to my final hotel, which was in Madrid, for me to pick up later. Now, I think if that diary was still there, I'd be asking for it to send me a postcard. Hi everyone, welcome to Rapport Building First. People call me Mel. So if you don't quite get the joke from before, it is a little bit of a time capsule joke. This video was made during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, just coming out at the end of restrictions being lifted in Australia. But unfortunately, the ban on international travel is not one which has been lifted just yet. So me being a bit of a traveller, I'm just getting a little bit of wanderlust here and there. So, like I said, this video was made during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, and actually I haven't made a video since the pandemic was declared. So the last video that I made was in a time when international travel was all good. We could get really crowded on a bus or a train and it didn't matter. We could go to a football game and watch it in a big crowd, and we could even shake hands with people. So what a pandemic means for rapport building is that instead of rapport building being about us connecting with people, it's about that, but it's also about allaying people's fears. Because right at the moment, we're still in a pandemic and people are still scared. There are people who are still scared to even come out to the gym at this point. And I can understand that. There are people who perhaps they are really keen to get out to the gym, and this has been what I've found with the classes which I've started back with. They're really keen to get back out to the gym, but you know what? They're looking around to make sure that we're doing everything is right as far as safety and hygiene is concerned. Now that's not so much from a perspective of fear for themselves. The people whom I've talked to aren't so worried about getting COVID-19 themselves. They're more worried about getting it and then spreading it to somebody else who may not be able to fight it off quite so well. That's what most people whom I've spoken to are really worried about. So I have had a couple of classes return. One is an outdoor Pilates class, which is sort of a tie-over for until we can go to indoor classes. And it's pretty much with people whom I don't know. The other one is a class which is with people whom I've known for years on end. And so there's a little bit of a difference in dynamic as far as rapport building is concerned. However, there are a few things which are pretty much universal right at the moment as far as rapport building goes. That right at the moment, our safety and our hygiene are right up there. Everything else that we do, knowing names, talking to people in their other language, that's all periphery. Everything now is based around how we can show that we're hygienic and clean. The other thing which we're going to have to do is to maintain our physical distancing. Now this means that we're going to have to perhaps rethink our approach to a lot of what we do as group fitness instructors. For me, when I'm teaching a class, if I'm welcoming people to my room prior to the class starting, I've got a bit of time, perhaps I've got some time in my room to do that in. I previously, in a non-COVID-19 world, I would stand at my door and collect tickets and welcome them in with a hi, how are you? Now, unless I've got a really big door in my room, that's not going to work because I can't maintain the 1.5 meter distancing that's required. So I realized that just before the lockdown was inaugurated, and I did something a bit different. I stood a good bit of a ways away from the door. So inside my room, probably about 2 meters away from my door. So that's 6 feet for those of you who work in Imperial. Stood a bit of a ways from my door. And from there, it wasn't so much about, hi, how are you? It was a, hi, how are you? It was about charisma. It was about facial expressions. Because while we can't touch people anymore, we can't shake hands with them, even a hand on the shoulder is potentially a bit of a problem, we can still make eye contact with people. We can still smile at them. So it's really important that we're doing that and making it genuine. People can tell when it's a smile or an eye gaze which is not genuine. People can tell when it's kind of pasted. So make sure that it's a genuine, welcoming of a smile. The other thing which I realized I was going to have to do differently was how I collected tickets. Because obviously people have taken the ticket in their hand and it's being transferred to my hand, a little bit of a problem. So what I did just prior to the lockdown was I got a bag, and a bag such as this one. So it's one which I can wipe out really easily. It's made of a synthetic product. And from there, I could just hold it out nice and long, and they could pop their ticket in there. By the way, this is a Sturt's Desert Pea. It's the floral emblem of South Australia. It's my favourite type of flower, by the way. So that's a way around it. And hey, having a bag with me is kind of part of my mantra to get some chats going. But it also means that we're able to maintain social distancing. We're able to keep that 1.5 metre distance from each other, and we're also not having to do touch points. Now, when it comes to having conversations with people, people are going to want to know what you've been doing during this few months of isolation. And people are pretty keen to also talk about what they've been up to as well, generally, is what I've found. So be ready with answers as to how things have been for you. And be also ready to be honest, is my advice. So for example, if someone talks about how it was actually a really tough time for them, for me, it's actually not been a really tough time. I've actually found some good in this time, even though I can't travel. And I actually did have a trip planned for mid-May, or start to mid-May. I was meant to go to the US and Canada. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed by that. But if someone was telling me how it was really, really tough for them, I would perhaps share with them a time which was really tough for me, which was one of the days when I would have been in Canada, would have been visiting Quebec City, and I'd really been looking forward to that. I might have shared that with them. Really depends what they were sharing with me. Otherwise, I might tell them a little bit about my own coping strategies. So for example, I got to work making a website. It's on travel photography and blogging, by the way. I will put a link in the description down below. So that gave me a sense of purpose every day, which helped me quite a lot throughout that time. So being ready to respond with how you coped, how you managed through the isolation time is something which is going to be valuable to our patrons. The other thing to be ready to do is to make a few little jokes here and there about some of the things which we have to do now in a COVID-19 world. So obviously you probably don't want to make jokes about the disease, because if someone's lost someone to that disease, it's going to be a little bit insensitive. Not just a little bit, it's very insensitive. However, making a few little jokes about some of the expectations isn't such a bad thing. So for example, when the lockdown restrictions were really heavy, there was one day when I went out to buy some baklava, this stuff. I'm told it's pronounced baklava or something up by one of my Greek patrons in my classes. And then I've got a Lebanese lady who tells me it's slightly different. So I'm just going to say this baklava. That's how I've been taught to say it. So I went to buy some of this. Anyway, the lady in the shop, she said to me, well, I've only got these big boxes for it. Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. They can socially distance in there. So a joke like that got a laugh. It's a safe sort of a joke to be throwing out. I wouldn't be throwing out a joke on, like I said, try to avoid actually joking about the disease, because if someone's actually got the disease or knows someone who's got it, and particularly if the results were fatal, that can be very insensitive and isn't going to help the situation. And another example might be if I had a bottle of sanitizer in my room, which I suspect we will all have bottles of sanitizer like this in our rooms, maybe with a pump for people to do. Maybe at some point just doing a almighty sanitizer. You are powerful, and I hope you smell nice. Really, could they make it smell like coffee? Or maybe freshly baked French sticks. Yeah, now they're talking. So I hope this has helped. I hope to have a new one of these videos out a bit sooner next time, but I hope this has helped for when you go back to teaching classes. Stay tuned, stay classy, ciao.